Hey, good morning, everybody. I just want to talk to y'all a little bit about things I've discovered in the scriptures over the last couple of years. Biggest one is going to be Paul. That was a hard nut for me to crack. Whenever I, it's my puppy doggy, Miss Bella. Say hi, Bella. Whenever I first left the traditional churches and realized the Father said that these are your instructions to live by until the end of heaven and earth, until the end of time. I think he meant it. I don't think he meant until Paul nailed his laws and rules and regulations and whatnot to the cross after Messiah was brutally murdered. And so as I started to look into my roots, if you will, I found that most of the people I was talking with were, for the first time, coming up against these things that Paul was saying, because for the first time we were reading our scriptures instead of having someone read them to us, and reading like the whole chapter, even, or maybe even like the whole book. Imagine that, instead of just a verse. The context that reading even a whole chapter brings into maybe a verse or two that you may have heard a minister or preacher or whatever speak about as you sit in the pews. It brings it to life to finish reading what they're talking about. But Paul's a tricky little slimy guy. He speaks so eloquently and beautifully. Many of my very favorite, cherished scriptures come straight from Paul. I got a really difficult time dealing with that, quite honestly. I mean, Ephesians, the armor of God, Corinthians, some of the most beautiful writings and ideas and manners and ways of considering your faith and your Father out of Paul are just incredible. And what I didn't realize is that I had actually been worshiping Paul instead of the Messiah. We got 4 books covering the 3 years of Messiah's life that was put to use. And so really it's kind of one book, 4 versions. And then the whole rest of the New Testament, it's all Paul. We got, like, I don't know, maybe a page and a half from the leader of the movement after Messiah was murdered, his half-brother, James the Just. He wasn't just the leader of the Jerusalem assembly, he was the leader of the entire assembly, all of it. And Peter, an important part of that, Peter, he held the keys to the kingdom of heaven, in fact. That's a big deal if you think about it. It's also, he was the rock upon which the church would be built. And some people say that that's a misinterpretation and it was talking about the Holy Spirit. Maybe so, maybe no, I don't know. I wasn't there. Neither were you. But anyway, this is to do with Paul, folks. Pretend you're a judge, okay? And pretend that by 2 or 3 witnesses, truth can be discovered. Now, if you're a new judge he doesn't know what the hell he's doing, then you might think that what that says, if 2 or 3 people get together and tell the same lie, that there is truth, and that's not what it says. Are you kidding me? I don't know if I'm being filmed here or not. Anyway, it says is truth can be found, determined by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. So if you separate them and you ask them intelligent questions in an attempt what the truth is, then by 2 or 3 witnesses, truth can be discovered. And so by the testimony of Paul himself, 2 of the 3 witnesses in Acts with regards to Paul, those are Paul, and Paul's talking about his vision of, or I don't know what you call it, it's a vision or a hallucination, maybe a dream, bold-faced lie, I don't know. But in his vision of Christ, he, the story all jumbled up so bad, it don't make no sense. And no 2 aspects of his story ever line up. And one of the 3 versions of his story comes from Luke, who was his understudy and basically his apprentice, if you will, who I'm going to assume wrote what Paul told him to write. You know, what Paul told him. This is what happened, and that's what Luke wrote. So basically, 3 out of the 3 witnesses tell a completely different testimony of his conversion. So, you know, in a similar manner as to what Constantine did when he had his vision of the cross, when God helped him to go slaughter all those or whatever he was doing. You know, God said, don't kill my people, turn them into pagans instead. Would you please, Constantine? Just marry up our religions and let my people go Nimrod on Christmas and bring in a dead tree like it tells us not to, and put it up and bow down to it and worship it, and like it's an altar, you know, when it said don't put it in your house. And so, you know, Constantine wanted to make it okay to be a Christian. Thank you, Constantine. So anyway, after Paul's done telling all of his lies and his nonsense, even if he hadn't have done that, he still tells on himself over and over and over again. He's a liar, just like his daddy, the devil. As a matter of fact, he's also a murderer, just like his daddy, the devil. He's a Herodian. Do y'all know who Herod is? Do you know that Paul's mama was the richest woman in Rome? And did you know back in the day, rather than taking advanced courses of, you know, an education, advanced courses to study things that are completely made up bullshit like the spinning ball? Well, back then they took stuff that mattered, that was real, like rhetorical arts. That's the art of spinning words into a little web. Make men's minds spin around like that ball, 1,000 miles an hour. But I don't feel anything. I don't feel like I'm spinning because I'm also going around the sun at 64,000 miles an hour, being across the Milky Way bar universe at 500,000 miles an hour, which is being flung across the universe at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So we're being flung, swung, and twirled in 18 different directions at all kinds of different speeds. Yet on any given morning, I can go out here and sit at the lake right by my house and see that water perfectly still like glass. They call it sea level for a reason, people. If they don't let you go to Antarctica, no one can go without special permission and guiding, like a tour. I can't go. I can't just get on a boat and go. They won't let me. Long before I get there, I'll be turned around or sunk, or if I try to fly, I'll be shot out of the air. Because they don't want me to get it dirty. These robber barons come over here to America and slaughtered all kinds of indigenous people and took the ones that they didn't murder and turned them into slaves. Said they was from somewhere different and confused them about who they were. Yeah, at the end of World War II, after all that unnecessary, planned out long in advance, artificial war that, it was a blood sacrifice of about 22 million people or so. It's similar to what's getting ready to happen now, except for what's about to happen next is going to be on a much, much greater scale. That was kind of like what you call a little prequel or a trailer, if you will, as to what's coming. Paul spent most of his ministry trying to get people to accept him because he didn't have any papers from James the Just. James the Just told all the church leaders, if anyone comes in our name, if they don't have any papers, don't accept them because they're, a chameleon, like a lizard, so to speak. They blend in. And so here along comes Paul with no papers, no authentication, no oath, no honor, no office. I mean, it's just like that judge, Raymond Glynn Wheless. They're over there at not judge, he pretending to be a judge, at the 366th District Court in Collin County. He ain't no judge. He's a freaking criminal. A bone criminal. Street thug. Street thug dressed in a black robe, a priest robe, a satanic ball priest robe, practicing necromancy. The filthiest sort of freaking people in this world don't hold a candle up to men like Raymond Glynn Wheless. What an utter piece of trash. If I was his mother, oh my God, I'd be so disappointed. I think I'd find him and just smack the crap out of him for being a punk and insulting our family name with his lying, thieving. I just ain't got no more time for phonies and frauds, and I don't have time to pretend like it's okay. That's how come I don't go to fellowship anymore, not even at home study. Because I'm not willing to worship Paul any more than I'm willing to worship Raymond Glynn Wheless. Paul's a fraud, and so is Raymond Glynn Wheless. I say plastic Paul spun off the ball. Someone needs to spin Raymond Glynn Wheless out that court. The degree that he has messed with my kids is obscene. I mean, literally, it's obscene. Raymond, I understand that Roman maxim about if you're dumb enough to be fooled, that's on you. Let him. I'm not sure if you can see this. Think about it for just a minute. What if you're dumb enough to be fooled? What if you got tricked? What if you gave up your soul for fucking coupons, for a bowl of beans? If you don't think that taking that money is the equivalent of taking from the beast. And I don't think you've been paying no attention to nothing. You think about it here in your head, get your thought, because you know that nobody's stopping you at the moment. You take your pretty little fingers and put your hands in the cookie jar and you take out what does not belong to you. Just because people tell you that you can do something doesn't mean it's okay. Kind of like what you did with my kids, piece of shit. Just because you told them that they didn't have to love or respect their father or even acknowledge him. If you think that that overrides the authority of Most High God, you've lost your mind. And what you've done is abused my sons. You found out in court that day that one of them had been to the hospital for suicidal thoughts. This is a child who has grown up without his father thanks to you. And then you let her keep on getting away with it after that. I don't know if you're the most evil piece of crap in this world or if you're the dumbest. But either way, you need to be dealt with. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to get dealt with. Through the system, lawfully, right way. Because there's no way in hell I will ever let you make me into that piece of shit that you painted me out to be, or let them paint me out to be in your courtroom and went along with, and you know, the way it worked out. I'm not that guy. I never have been. I'm the same guy today that I have been all my life. And I'll never change because that's who I am. I'm a good man, Raymond. I don't lie to people. I don't steal from people. I don't pretend like I'm something that I'm not to take advantage of people. I don't go talk to other people's and children and plant bullshit into their heads to make them have negative feelings about who they are and their father in their own mind. Can you imagine what it would be like for a child to spend his whole childhood growing up believing that his father is an utter piece of shit? Because that child is half of the father. And what do you think that does up here when it comes to how the relationship with our father here in this world is somehow a shadow of our father's, of our relationship with our Father in heaven? As I've said before, Raymond, I'll forgive you. But it's getting harder and harder as time goes by because you're going to have to undo some of what you've done in order to be forgiven. I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm not going to allow you to be the one who has me before my Father all stained and blemished and smeared in shit. I don't want no revenge against you. Vengeance belongs to him, and he will deal with you. Everything will be fine, and then one day, and it just won't stop. It'll keep on fucking slapping you in the head like that. That's how it'll go. I mean, do you not understand that you can't go through life behaving the way you behave without suffering consequences on the other side of this flesh? Do you not understand that we are not to fear the first death, but the second? Do you not get that that's why I have no fear of you or your thugs or your slugs or anybody that you got to throw at me? I ain't afraid of nothing that you can do. You could murder me and spit on me and shit on me. I don't care. It's my flesh. You cannot touch my spirit, my soul. That belongs to somebody else, and it ain't you, partner. What I would recommend is that you back up and let go of my kids. And so far as Paul goes, people, come on now. Please. Please. I know it's hard because it wipes out a lot of the New Testament, but you're looking in the wrong place. Don't look to Constantine or the Catholic Church for anything. God bless. We've got scriptures all over the world. They didn't come in one fancy book that's black, like Black's Law, Raymond's book of law. It's the devil's book. Y'all even know anything at all about who King James was, for crying out loud? Don't get me wrong, those scriptures are vitally important, and they are the authority of Most High God. There's so much value in all of it. It is woven together in such a way that even with all of Paul's nonsense, that doesn't detract from the value of the scriptures. God is in those scriptures. Otherwise, the Bible codes wouldn't be the way they are. You couldn't run 72 letter skip across the scriptures and come out with headlines on maybe a 50,000 letter count, and it show you what's in the newspapers today. The Father is in those scriptures. Don't hear me wrong. But you're also going to be able to find him in the Nag Hammadis. You're going to be able to find him in Enoch. You're going to be able to find him in the Apocrypha. Do you even understand that you don't have the whole Bible that you started out with? The Protestants, the Hegelian dialectic set up in advance on purpose, maybe to last like 500 years, whatever, 400, whatever it was. They took out all of the Apocrypha and they just stripped it clean out because the Protestants thought that part didn't belong. Well, that's not the part we approve of. Well, how the hell is that any different than that one dumbass president, writing his version of the Bible without anything supernatural happening in it? Paul's in there because Yeshua said right up front almost, I think it was like the first words out of his mouth, beware of false prophets. They will come like wolves in sheep's clothing. They will appear. They will be here. So how can you be surprised that 10 minutes after Yeshua's gone, along comes Paul? Of course along comes Paul. You were told he was coming. And do you think he's not going to be intelligent? Do you think he's not going to be able to put up a good game and fool people? But for the elect's sake. And I don't even think they're talking about Paul there, because when he talks about for the elect's sake, they're talking about something real tricky. Because I got news for you. Paul is not real tricky. It's not hard to figure out. All he does is go around undoing everything the apostles did, blaspheming the apostles, mocking the apostles, murdering the apostles. For heaven's sakes, he was so proud of himself. Really, he's about the only one he was really interested in talking in the first place. He says that his wisdom and knowledge does not come from the apostles. He didn't learn anything from the apostles. In order to be an apostle, the criteria is that you would have had to have been present and available and walking with Mashiach from the beginning of his ministry to the end. The only place in there that Paul was to be found was when he was offered the opportunity to be a disciple. Yet he turned it down because he was too wealthy. He didn't want to be one because he didn't want to give up his money. He just wanted to pretend to be one, a pretender, a fake, a fraud, fucking phony. Just like you, Raymond. You need to retire, Ray. You retire and go home and stay there, Ray Ray. You're a disgrace. I gotta be honest with you. I've thought about it, and you should be thanking your lucky stars that you never got that position that you wanted so badly. That woman come in and took it right out from under you. I think it's funny as hell. The only problem with all that, Ray Ray, is that the consequences that she's going to have to suffer would be too much for you. You're not that strong. You're not. I mean, I've seen it. You're a coward. You're a weenie ass coward who's probably a fucking bully when you were a kid. I suspect you're the kind of guy who would go into his granny's room and steal her money because you couldn't wait till she died to get it. See, if you would have got that job, Ray, the one you sought, that you wanted, to be on the review court to determine whether or not the final appeal of a death row inmate would be heard and approved or not. Final word. He who will be fooled, let him. You're obviously fooled, because if you think for 1 second that you putting your final stamp, your signature on another man's death, who you know good and well is absolutely 100% not guilty as charged. I don't know if he did anything or even who we're talking about. All I know, it's not possible in this country for anyone to be guilty as charged. That's my problem with this country. Not the country, the people. I love my country, and I don't mind obeying the rules. I don't want some asshole coming down the highway at 90 miles an hour and ram in the back of my truck and kill my kid. I'm not stupid. But if you're going to put a sign up on the side of the road and say that this applies only to government employees and people who are conducting commerce, and then pull everybody over whenever they know good and well you're just fucking them, well, then what the hell? If you want to make that the rules, obviously y'all can do whatever the hell you want. Why don't you just write it in the rules and say that nobody can do this? Of course I know why. I'm not going to tell people that part. They need to know that on their own. I know one thing. You stuck like Chuck Ray. And one direction for you to go. That's out. Unless you're comfortable with the direction you're headed. Wow. Maybe I could understand it if you were even doing all this for anything that's real, but you're doing it for fucking coupons. Come on now. That's stupid. Honestly, that's dumb. Dumb, 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 dumb. You people and your kafirs. A lot like Paul. Nothing but a fraud. Talks a good game, but nothing but a filthy fraud. If anyone's got any questions about Paul or would like to talk to me about it, I invite it. Please do. If I'm wrong, I want to know. Seriously, I do. Same goes for Ray Ray. Let me know.